morning. Hey. Oh, happy Easter. Oh my god, I'm so happy. 2 long days without seeing you. Hey. What's everyone doing this morning? Anyone doing anything interesting for Easter? I'm sure we'll have a quiet live because most people will be doing some kind of Easter festivity with their family, which is fine. I'm going to be a productive human. I will. I must. Oh, I can't believe you're awake. I'm awake. Oops. Who's texting me? It's Becca. Family schmamily. You're going to a concert today? That's amazing. What concert are you going to? It's 7:25 a.m. Yes, it is 7:25. Well, yeah. Yes, it is. Happy Easter to you as well. What's everyone drinking this morning? Anything good? Anybody getting any yummy candies? They call the not drinking. Oh, cool. That's fun. Yeah, I'm also making coffee. Makes sense to me. Sasha, you will never answer the what time it is questions. The mods have it covered. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's whatever, you know. Making coffee too. My Nespresso's echoing yours. Hey, what's yours' name? What's your Nespresso's name? I don't remember if I ever named mine. I feel like I should. I'm going to go and have my finger looked at and see if I damaged... Ooh, no. Yes, I am in the U.S. That sounds awful, Haley. I'm really sorry. I did a really crap job of peeling this orange. What is wrong with me? His name is Ralph. He's red and he's my hero. Nice! I feel like I named mine. You're getting ready for surgery today. Oh my gosh, whoa. You need to pick a name for your new KitchenAid. What color is it? Good morning, happy Easter to you as well. Robin's egg blue. I'll think on it. Morning. Morning, morning. I think I ate that orange too fast. Okay. I hope she's sleeping too. I don't actually know if she's sleeping or not, but I hope she's sleeping. Yeah, I was trying to think of like a... I mean, the only show that I can think of that even has that color in the playbill off the top of my head is Bright Star, and I don't know if you'd want to call it Bright Star. I'm trying to think of other shows that even have that in their logo. You know what I mean? I can't really think of any off the top of my head. Oh, there's Catherine. She just sent me her Wordle score, so she must be awake. Yeah, I usually know off the top of my head what colors are in each one because of flowers, like when I do weddings and stuff. It's not the Kimberly Kimbo color. Yeah, I know what color you're talking about because I think I used to have that when I was married, and then my husband took that in the divorce. I love that it's almost always Christmas, Sasha. I love the hoodie. Yeah, it's almost always Christmas at Sasha's. I also still have stockings up on my mantle. I just can't bring myself to take them down. I know, and then I have my nutcracker here. I know it's not Christmas anymore, but they're just so cute. I couldn't bear to take them down, and because I got the house when it was time to decorate for Christmas, like the place just feels bare without them. I don't know. I haven't been able to put them away yet. They go really well with the room, and everyone's always like, why do you have stockings up? And I'm like, well, they're not Christmas colors, they're pink. I don't know if I'll ever take them down. Maybe if I think of something else to put there. Everyone keeps being like, you can hang like some kind of garland there. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. That doesn't, I don't know, that feels, first of all, that feels like something Zoe's going to tear down the minute that she sees it. Because she's 2. You have a wreath up, it's rainbow, nice. Classic. I'm good, Snake Girl, how are you? It lives on your door. Nice. Okay. So we are reading. Is everyone all caught up, or does anyone need a quick recap? We are on It's Your House, Hang Stockings. Exactly. Thank you, Drea. Thank you. I appreciate that sentiment. I like you. Thank you. My starter pack order hasn't come in the mail yet with basic shipping to Nebraska. Should it be here yet? Do you have your tracking number? Have you tried tracking it, Abby? It will probably, with regular shipping, not priority, it will probably arrive Monday if I had to be because the week of holidays, there's always a lot of mail, so some stuff gets really slow. I'm not caught up, but I can, if everyone just wants to listen. Oh, yeah. Morning, Amanda. How are you? Amanda, you should be getting your custom slime shortly. Custom slime. Roll for slime shortly. I definitely mailed that. So anyway, we're reading The Land of Stories. I don't think I got a tracking number. It will be in your email. Check your spam. I had a hard time focusing on the last bit with the scuffle. Yes. So basically the last things that we saw, that they figured out all the items that they need to collect. Well, not all of them, but a lot of the items they need to collect, and then they're off to go get them. Abby, check your spam, because sometimes people's tracking numbers go to spam. Everybody gets a tracking number regardless of what type of shipping they choose. And then sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was in my spam or whatever like that. So give that a go. And if you can't find it there, email me and I will pull up the tracking in my system. They were attacked by wolves, but that was a whole chapter ago. We're way past that. Happy Easter to anyone who celebrates. Yes, happy Easter to anyone who celebrates. Agreed. And happy Passover to the people who celebrated. Right? That's how it works, right? It was yesterday. So we are on chapter 8. And we're going to get going on this. Technically, it's still Passover. Oh, well, there you go. So happy Passover to those who celebrate Passover. I don't religiously celebrate either, but I did have fun hiding eggs for Zoe, if that counts for anything. Passover's a full week. Oh, you got some Hanukkah action going on here. All right. Nice. Why didn't I know that? Rugrats doing me dirty. Come on, Rugrats, do better. I finished the book last night so that I could return it to the library. You're way ahead of us. Oh my gosh, we're not close to it. We've read this much. We still have this much to go. I know. Rugrats is one of the greatest things that ever happened to teaching people about Judaism in popular culture, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that sarcastically, like I'm being straight. Like, I think they did great. But anyway, I'm still listening to you, but it was so good. Yeah. No, it's been so good so far. I'm really excited. All right, so this is Chapter 8, A Hidden Place. The northern tip of Sleeping Kingdom was an ugly and vacant place. It was known for its bare trees, bumpy paths, and dangerously high cliffs. Small stones were scattered on the earth, making it nearly impossible to travel by carriage. Even though it rained every so often, nothing ever grew, making it impossible for any animals to live there. In the middle of this dry, deserted place was a small castle surrounded by a deep and empty moat. It was ancient and made of dark bricks, wooden doors, and had been through years of decay. No one knew who had built the castle or why it had been built, but again, very few people even knew of its existence. The inside of the castle was covered in a thick layer of dust. Cobwebs, almost as old as the castle, were on every windowsill, and even though there were no spiders to be found, all the rooms and corridors were empty except for the occasional decrepit chair or table placed in a corner. A great hall completed the eastern wing of the castle. It really was, Shelley, it really was. Floor-length windows bordered the hall, letting in a lot of light, but they were so old that the glass distorted the outside world. The castle couldn't have been a less desirable place to be, but for one woman, it was the perfect place to hide. Somehow, the evil queen had escaped the dungeons of Snow White's palace. She managed to get a hold of her magic mirror and traveled to a place where she knew she would never be found. The castle acted as the perfect sanctuary where she could finish the work she had started so long ago. The evil queen was not a stranger to this place. Over the last century, many people had come to the castle, but only she and a few others were fortunate enough to have left it, including someone the former queen had not seen in a great while. She had recently sent word to this old friend asking him to come and aid her, and so she waited for him to arrive, knowing that he would any day now, for he owed her his life. The evil queen stood facing her magic mirror with open palms and closed eyes. She was quite calm for being the most wanted woman alive. To her right, resting on a short stool, was the heart of stone that she always kept close. Although it was one of the most infamous objects in all of the kingdoms, very few people had ever seen the evil queen's magic mirror. Many believed it was made of glamorous materials like gold and diamonds and glass, so pure that one could swear they could talk or walk through it. In reality, the mirror was tall and wide, with a black frame that peaked at the top. Tangled vines made of cast iron wove through the frame. The reflection was as cloudy as if it were a glass doorway into a very cold and very foggy place. Although there was very little moisture in the air, perspiration dripped down the glass. The evil queen opened her eyes and gazed deeply into the mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, how long until the huntsman answers my call?" she asked it. The ghostly silhouette of a man appeared in the reflection. It spoke slowly and softly with a hoarse voice. "While my queen awaits an old friend once dear, the huntsman travels very near." The man in the mirror slowly faded away. With moments, 3 loud knocks came from the other side of the great hall's doors. "You may enter," the evil queen said. The doors opened, creaking terribly, and a man entered the hall. He was tall, broad, and just on the verge of old age. He wore a variety of animal skins and had a limp in his right leg. His beard was light brown and graying. A crossbow was attached to his back, and a large hunting knife hung from his waist. "My huntsman has returned," the evil queen said. The huntsman walked across the hall to where the evil queen was standing. "It's been a long time since I last saw your face," she said, "and I still find it hard to stomach looking at you." The huntsman fell to his knees and wept at her feet. "Your Majesty," the huntsman cried, "please forgive me, for I have never forgiven myself for failing you." The evil queen looked down at him coldly. "Good morning, I hope your day is going well too, sweetheart." The evil queen looked down at him coldly. She had no sympathy left inside her for anyone. "After all you had done for me, and after all the Rewind. After all you had done for me, and after all the mercy you had shown me, I could not kill the princess in the forest," the huntsman said. "And just look at all the pain it has caused you. Had I done as you asked, you would still be queen." The evil queen let his pathetic sobs continue for a while longer. She showed no signs of forgiveness. He deserved to feel this way. She stepped away from the huntsman and peered through a window at the lifeless land that surrounded them. "You and I were both prisoners in this castle once," the evil queen said. "I never imagined that one day it would act as my only refuge." "You saved me," the huntsman said. "I surely would have died here had it not been for you, and that is why I swore to you then that I would do anything to assist you with your mission, but I failed you. After all this time, I'm still on the same mission as I was back then. So do not cry, old friend. I've called you here for a chance at redemption." She walked back to him and gently placed a hand on his cheek. The huntsman stopped crying and looked up at the queen with huge, sad eyes. Redemption? The huntsman asked. You mean, Your Majesty, you're still giving me a chance to serve you after what I've done? The huntsman's tears quadrupled in size, and he continued sobbing. Curse this world for claiming you to be anything less than the saint that you are. I'd kill every person who's tarnished your name if I could. That won't be necessary, the evil queen said. I have another task for you. It requires a great deal of traveling, and since being the most wanted fugitive alive prevents me from doing it myself, I've called you here. The huntsman grew quiet and lowered his head shamefully. Your greatness, he said, I've grown too old to travel. I can barely walk as it is. Thank you. Like my hysterical crying huntsman voice. The evil queen looked down at him with an angry brow. You imbecile, she said, raising her voice. You mean to tell me you traveled all the way here to tell me that you're useless? The huntsman rose to his feet with difficulty. No, not at all, my queen, he said. Please let me explain. I'm far too old to serve you, but my daughter is able and willing to help you complete what I cannot. Daughter? The evil queen asked. The doors at the end of the hall opened again. This time a woman entered, dragging a large wagon behind her. She was tall and thin, with hair so dark red it seemed to have a violet tint. Her eyes were bright green, and her clothing were made entirely of plant leaves and other greenery. The wagon she pulled contained a large square object. It was large and flat and covered with a silk cloth for safety. After seeing her, the evil queen could recall a time many years ago when she had known that the huntsman had a daughter. She'd always been a shy little girl that lived with her father in the palace when the evil queen was on the throne. You've grown up, the evil queen said. The huntsman's daughter nodded in her direction. You'll speak when I address you, the evil queen demanded. My daughter is mute, your majesty, the huntsman said. She never said a word in her life. However silent she may be, it does not make her any less capable of doing what you asked of her. She's brought you a gift to prove herself. The huntsman's daughter carefully removed the object from her wagon, gently placed it beside the queen's magic mirror. Once it was positioned correctly, she removed the silk cloth. It was a mirror smaller than the magic mirror. It was circular, with flowers engraved into a square golden frame. The evil queen knew exactly what it was the second it was revealed. "The Mirror of Truth," she said. The former queen had acquired it during her reign. It was another magic mirror that showed one's true self when one stood before it. "How did you get this?" the evil queen asked. "She broke into the palace to retrieve it for you," the huntsman said. The evil queen touched the Mirror of Truth's frame. She had forgotten the detail in the carving. She turned and faced the huntsman's daughter. "You shall be my huntress," the evil queen declared. The huntress bowed and kissed the queen's hand. "What is the task at hand, your majesty?" the huntsman asked. "Have either of you ever heard of the wishing spell?" the evil queen asked. The huntsman and the huntress curiously looked at each other. "No, my queen," the huntsman said, "unless you're speaking of the old foolish fable." "That very one," she said. "I never took it seriously until I recently heard a prisoner in the dungeon mumbling about it moments before his execution. According to the foolish fable, after a group of selected objects are collected and placed together, the collector is granted one wish. It doesn't matter how great or small, the wish is guaranteed to be granted, and as you know, I have a wish to be granted." "You want my daughter to collect these items for you, then?" the huntsman asked. "Precisely," the evil queen said. "From what I've learned, the task is very dangerous, and it may take some time. But if she succeeds, I will consider whatever debt you owe to be diminished." The huntsman looked at his daughter, and the huntress nodded. "Very well," he said. "She will do it. What are the items you seek, my queen?" The evil queen took her place before the magic mirror, extended her open palms, and gazed deep inside it. "Magic mirror on the wall, what must we seek for the wishing spell that grants all?" she asked. The ghostly silhouette appeared again. "Glass that housed a lonely soul up until midnight's final toll. A saber from the deepest sea meant for a groom's mortality. The bark of a basket held in fright while running from a bark with bite. A stony crown that's made to share, found deep within a savage lair. A needle that pierced the lovely skin of a princess with beauty found within. A wavy lock of golden rope that once was freedom's only hope. Glittering jewels whose values increased after preserving the false deceased. Teardrops of a maiden fairy, feeling neither magical nor merry." "There you have it," the evil queen said to the huntsman and the huntress. But the magic mirror was not finished. "But listen to this, my fair queen, for I offer you a fair warning. For one wish you are willing to pay any price, unaware that the wishing spell can only happen twice. And the spell can only happen once more, for it was already used once before. In this castle as we stand, a duo move throughout the land. A young brother and sister collect at quick pace and may defeat the queen in the wishing spell race." Dun 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 is what we would say there. The man in the mirror faded away, leaving the queen with the worst possible news. Not only was someone after the objects that she needed, but if they were used before she could collect them, she would never be able to use them again. She closed her eyes and thought about what her next move would be. She couldn't afford to have any more odds stacked against her. After a lifetime of work, she wasn't about to let these two children stand in her way. "I want you to start retrieving the items," the evil queen said to the huntress, "and I will handle the brother and sister. Now, leave me." The huntsman and the huntress bowed and left the queen alone in the great hall. The evil queen stood before the mirror of truth. Years of being a prisoner had taken its toll on her appearance. It was painful for her to see the aging woman who reflected back at her. She picked up her heart of stone and examined it closely, lightly stroking its sides. The evil queen looked back up at the mirror of truth, and this time there was no reflection of the disheveled woman she had grown into. This time, staring back at her was the face of a youthful one. It belonged to a young maiden with pale skin, long, dark hair. She wore a long, white dress with a matching ribbon tied around the waist and also holding a heart of stone. The girl smiled, but the evil queen did not smile back. She knew the girl in the mirror very well, and she was not Snow White. Dun, dun, dun. Crazy times. Since it's Easter and Sunday, and we're all just a little more chill, or at least I'm a little more chill. Why is my watch so dark? Oh, there we go. Do we want to read one more? Does everyone have time for one more? I don't know who has plans, what everyone's doing today. Sorry if you already said it, but what were your... Oh, no worries at all. This is called The Land of Stories, The Wishing Spell. Catherine is going to her in-laws today, so I don't have to worry about anyone coming here. The only thing I'm doing today is going to buy stuff for Millie. You're just chilling? Just chilling. Okay. Chapter 9. The Charming Kingdom. Alex and Connor woke up on the floor of Rapunzel's tower just after sunrise. They were snuggled under the blankets that Froggy had given them, and they used their bags as pillows. "How'd you sleep?" Alex asked her brother. "Like I slept on the floor of a tower," Connor said, thinking that he'd never take his bed at home for granted again. He stretched his back, and his joints made a sound like firecrackers. They put away their blankets and decided to get started early on their day. Alex insisted on tidying up the tower, leaving it in better condition than they'd found it. "I'd hate for anyone to think that we made this mess," Alex said. Connor rolled his eyes and made sure that she saw it. "What's our next stop?" Connor asked Alex. She looked back and forth from the map in one hand to the journal in the other. "Well, the Charming Kingdom is just east of here," Alex said. "I figure it would be wisest to go there and see if we can get a hold of Cinderella's glass slipper." "And how exactly are we going to do that?" Alex asked. "All your kids are leaving. Where are they going?" "Where are your kids going?" And Alex had to think about it. "Well, we'll just ask if we can borrow it," she decided. "Fat chance," Connor said. "That's like walking into the White House and asking for the Declaration of Independence." Although Connor was wrong about the whereabouts of the Declaration of Independence, Alex knew he was right to be concerned. How were they going to get their hands on one of Cinderella's slippers? Surely they must be the most prized possessions in all of that kingdom. "Well, we'll have to try our best," Alex said. "What other option do we have?" The twins traveled down the spiral staircase in the core of Rapunzel's tower and returned to the path. They eventually came to a fork where a new path splintered off. Deborah's taking them to her sister, where her mom, stepdad, and other sister are visiting. Excellent. What a genius move. I love that for you. In the eastern direction, above the fork said, "Charming Kingdom," and pointed in the direction the new path headed. "Connor, look at the sign," Alex said, pressing her hands at her cheeks. "Now I really wish I had a camera." They traveled down the new path for quite a while without discovering anything new but the same dirt path and evergreen trees that they had seen for the last 2 days. Connor became more anxious the farther that they walked, letting out large, extended sighs every minute or two. "Are you sure we aren't lost? I swear that I've already seen that boulder and that tree about 20 times, he said. Along with 3 cousins, a cousin-in-law, is that a thing, and their child. Wow, well, good for them, and I'm glad you don't have to go. "I'm positive we're traveling in the right direction. I've been watching the map since we left," Alex said. "We should be approaching the stream very soon, and once we cross it, we'll be in the Charming Kingdom." Connor sighed again. It would be his last for a while, so he made sure it was extra long. A couple of hours later, there was no stream in sight. Alex was starting to lose faith in his sister's navigational abilities. This place must have been bigger than we thought, Alex said, or this map is completely off scale. Eventually, the twins found the stream that Alex had seen on the map. The path went across a small bridge made out of pale stones and continued on the other side. You see, I told you I knew what I was doing, Alex said with her head held high. Yeah, Connor said. Honestly, Connor, I'm a little disappointed in your lack of faith, Alex gloated. If there's one place that I should know my way around, it would have to be grrr. Connor heard his sister's high-pitched scream before he realized what happened. A large troll had jumped out right in front of them on the bridge. He was short and very wide, with an enormous head. He was covered in matted fur with large eyes and a snout. His arms and legs were tiny, but his nails and teeth were sharp and long. You are on my bridge, the troll shouted. How dare you? We're sorry, said Alex, clinging on to her brother like a monkey to a tree. We had no idea that the bridge belonged to anyone. Maybe you should put up a sign or something, Connor suggested, and then regretted it once it made the troll even angrier. What are you doing on my bridge? The troll demanded. Trying to get across into Charming Kingdom, Alex said. We don't mean any harm. No one crosses my bridge without answering a riddle, the troll said. A riddle? Alex asked, letting go of Connor. Oh, you're a bridge troll. A bridge troll? Connor asked. Yes, just like in the Three Billy Goat Scruff, Alex said happily. She was so excited to be witnessing another fairy tale occurrence it faded her fear right away. If you wish to cross the bridge, you must answer my riddle correctly, the bridge troll said. Answer incorrectly and I'll bite off your head. Excuse me? Bite off our heads? Connor said. Steam was practically coming from his ears. What's wrong with everyone in this place? Why does everyone we meet want to eat us? Can someone explain to me why this keeps happening? You know, I have to pause for a second. Some of you may not know this, but I have an irrational fear of cannibals and cannibalism in general, and I wonder if this is the core of it. Do you think that this is where my fear originated? Not this book, but like fairy tales in general? Is that why I'm this way? Huh. I always thought it started from Criminal Minds in that episode with Jamie Kennedy. Maybe it goes deeper than that. Weird. Connor, calm down, Alex insisted. Let's just solve the riddle and then we'll be on our way. What if we get the riddle wrong? Connor said. He'll kill us. Let's just find another way to cross the stream. Connor, don't be silly. If the Billy Goats can answer the riddle correctly, I'm sure we can too, Alex reassured him. Besides, there isn't another bridge for miles. Connor grunted and crossed his arms. How are we so sure that this actually is his bridge? Connor said. I'd like to see some ownership identification before we continue. Alex ignored this. What's your riddle, Mr. Bridge Troll? She asked. May I call you Mr. Bridge Troll? The Bridge Troll eyed the twins, jauntily swaying from side to side as he began the riddle. What can be as small as a pea or as large as the sky and is not owned by the person who purchased it? It asked. The wheels in Alex's head began turning immediately. She loved riddles. That's a tricky one, Alex said and pressed her index finger against her lips as she thought. Do you have any guesses, Connor? Nope, you're on your own, Connor said. You have one guess before I bite off your head, so guess wisely, the bridge troll said, doing a small dance and clapping his hands. That's it, I'm out of here, Connor said, and he walked off the bridge and slowly made his way down to the stream. Connor, what are you doing? Alex called out. I'm crossing the stream, Connor yelled back. No bridge is worth that much trouble. He slowly stepped into the stream and began traveling across it. The water was freezing, but his frustration kept him warm enough that it didn't matter. The water rose higher and higher as he traveled farther across it. It's not that deep, Alex, Connor said. The current isn't even that strong. He reached the middle of the stream at its deepest, and the water came to just above his waist. You're cheating, Alex said, and then asked the bridge troll, is that even allowed? Can he do that? He isn't the one who asked for the riddle. You are, the bridge troll said. Connor had crossed the stream by now and was soaking wet. Alex continued, thinking about the riddle. So it can be as small as a pea and as large as the sky. So basically you're telling me it can be any size, and the person who buys it doesn't own it. So that means someone else owns it, she thought out loud. Hurry up, Alex, Connor shouted. Oh, hush, Alex said. I'm going to say that it must be a gift. A gift can be any size, and the receiver who owns it is not the person who purchased it. The bridge troll stopped swaying from side to side and slumped over. That is correct, the bridge troll said disappointedly. You may pass. Alex clapped her hands together and did a small jump. She extended her hand out to offer the troll a handshake, but he ignored it. Instead, he crawled back below to wherever he had jumped out from. See, Alex said once she met up with her brother on the other side of the bridge. I knew I'd answer it correctly. Connor shook his head. And I'm sure I'll have to hear about this for the rest of our lives, he said. But let's try to make it to Cinderella's place by sundown, okay? The twins continued their journey into the charming kingdom. They were excited to see different scenery as they traveled. The evergreen trees they had seen so much of became scarce and were slowly replaced by oak trees. There were also vast fields of tall grass and wildflowers everywhere they looked. Me too, Shelley. Me too. It's so beautiful here, Alex said. They had been walking for hours and still no sign of anything. Connor was practically dry by now. Where is everything? Connor asked. The charming kingdom is a very big place, Alex said. It's going to take us a while to get to the palace. It began to get dark and the twins soon became very worried. There was no shelter in sight. Soon the moon was their only source of light. They walked a short distance off the path and found a grassy area among a fruit trees that they assumed and hoped was safe. They decided to spend the night there. Connor tried making a fire by rubbing 2 sticks together, but was unsuccessful. Now I really wish I had signed up for Boy Scouts, he said. It was their first night sleeping outside. Both kept waking up every hour or so to make sure that they were still safe because every sound terrified them. What was that? Alex gasped in the middle of the night. That's an owl, Connor said, or a very inquisitive dove, but either way I think we're safe. The next morning the sunrise woke them. They restlessly got to their feet and returned to the path. We're running out of food, Alex said after eating one of their last apples. We'll have to stock up as soon as we find a market or something. I'm so tired of rolls and apples. I'm starting to think that we should have asked Froggy to pack us some flies, Connor said. Gosh, what a kill for a cheeseburger. Maybe that's why everyone eats each other so much here. They just haven't discovered fast food yet. I know. Connor is really funny, you guys. I have to tell you, I'm so impressed with Chris for writing these characters so brilliantly. Chef's kiss, Chris. You're giving it. He is giving it. They found a small pond on the side of the path and splashed some water on their faces. We look so tired, Alex said, looking at their reflections. The twins heard galloping coming from behind them on the path. They turned to see a small cart of firewood being pulled by a gray horse, and it was steered by a man with a big floppy green hat. Let's ask him how much further till the palace, Alex said, and ran over to the cart. Excuse me, sir. Whoa, the man said, slowing his horse to a stop. May I help you? How much farther until we reach Cinderella's palace? Alex asked. Are you traveling by foot? The man asked. Unfortunately, Connor said. Then it'll take you days to get there, the man said. Alex and Connor looked at each other, completely exasperated. I'm delivering this firewood nearby the palace tonight, the man said. I can give you a ride if you'd like. Before he could finish his sentence, Connor had climbed aboard the cart. Thank you so much, Alex said. This is so kind of you. The twins traveled with the man for the rest of the day. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to kick you. I know, Alex needs to get it together. Connor made himself comfortable atop of the firewood and napped almost the entire trip, waking up every so often whenever they hit a bump in the road. Alex, on the other hand, took advantage of having an actual human to talk to from the fairy tale world. What's your name? Alex asked the man. Smithers, the man said. Where are you from? She asked. I grew up in a small village in the northeastern part of the charming kingdom, Smithers said. What's it like here? Alex asked dreamily. My brother and I, we haven't been around the kingdom very much. The charming kingdom's a quiet place, Smithers said. There's many small villages on the outskirts of the kingdom and many wealthy estates in the center near the palace. Have you ever been to the palace before? Alice asked. Oh, yes. I make deliveries there during the year, he said. In fact, tonight the king and the queen are having a huge ball. The prince is giving a ball. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry. He's not the prince anymore. He's the king. Bad Sasha. They are. Alex's eyes doubled in size. She shook Connor awake. Connor, did you hear that? Cinderella is having a ball tonight. Isn't that wonderful? What are the chances? What the? Oh, yeah. That's great, Connor said, and then immediately fell back asleep. Why are they having a ball? Alex asked. They've had one every month since their wedding, Smithers said. It's like a celebration of their marriage. What's Queen Cinderella like? She asked. Absolutely beautiful. The best queen our kingdom has ever had, Smithers said with a big grin. Not too many people were eager to accept her when she first moved into the palace, though. Many of the aristocratic families were upset that the prince hadn't chosen one of their daughters to wed, but she's overcome all of that since. Alex could tell that they were getting much closer to the palace. They passed more small villages, which grew in size and population as they went along. She was so excited to be close to people, actual people, who had spent their entire lives in the fairy tale world that she wished with all her heart that she could say she'd grown up in the charming kingdom. Do you ever find it overwhelming? Alex asked Smithers. Does it ever get frightening living here and knowing that at any moment a fairy could fly by and grant you a wish, or an ogre could run up and eat you? Smithers looked at her curiously. Does such a place exist where people can't unexpectedly be helped or hurt? Alex couldn't think of any. Maybe this world and the world that she were from weren't so different after all. The cart began passing large estates. Everywhere they looked, they saw another huge, elegant home. They were all so bright and colorful with pointed roofs that curved on the sides. Some were made from wood, others from brick, and some were covered completely in ivy. It was something straight out of a storybook, and Alex kept reminding herself that she was in one. We're almost at the palace, Smithers said. The cart began to vibrate as the dirt path beneath them turned into cobblestone street. Shops and markets started popping up on the sides of the streets as they traveled into the city. They shared the road with other carts and carriages. Villagers and townspeople alike walked along the side and went about their day-to-day routines of shopping and trades. Are we there yet? Connor said, stirring back to life. The cart rounded a corner onto a very long and wide street. At the end of the street was an enormous palace. I'll take that as a yes, Connor said. The palace took Alex's breath away. It was perfectly symmetrical and smooth, as if it were made out of sky-gray porcelain. 3 prominent towers in the middle of the palace shared a base with a gigantic clock, large enough to make the whole kingdom see it. The palace almost seemed fake, it was so majestic. It was grander than they had ever imagined. Well, this is where I'll drop you off, said Smithers, pulling his cart and his horse over to the side of the street. Best of luck to you both, young'uns. Enjoy the town. Thank you so much, the twins said together. They tried to offer him a few gold coins as a thank you, but Smithers insisted that they saved their money, and then they went on their way. The twins walked around the town for a good while. Everyone seemed to be buzzing with anticipation for the ball later that evening. They found a small market, and they were able to purchase fresh fruit, vegetables, and bread. Alex kept trying to make small talk with every person she encountered, but most of the townspeople ignored her. Connor kept rolling his eyes at his sister. Everything she saw excited her. I don't know how I'm going to survive traveling with you if you keep up this constant state of excitement, Connor said. It's exhausting, and it's really getting on my nerves. I'm sorry, Alex said. We've been around so many trees the last couple of days. I'm just so excited to see their people. And oh, look at the doorknob on that building. It's in the shape of a slipper. Isn't that cute? After a busy afternoon of sightseeing, they found a quiet hill that overlooked the town, and they sat under the shade of a large tree. The sun was starting to descend, and the twins grew anxious as they thought of another day ending. What's our plan? Connor asked. Well, let's see what the journal suggests, Alex said, and pulled it out of her school bag. She flipped through the pages until she came across the section about the glass slipper. Cinderella's glass slipper is a very difficult item to retrieve. Her slippers, without doubt, are the most cherished possession of the kingdom. First, you must find a way into the palace. This is rather difficult as there's only one entrance. One of Cinderella's first acts as queen was to get rid of all the servants' entrances so that when people come to the palace, they all enter as equals. Once inside, find a way to Cinderella's royal display. This will also be difficult since there's no one allowed in the queen's chambers without an invitation from her. The slippers are on display in a glass box on the top of the pillar at the center of the room. The slippers are not hard to remove from the inside of the glass box, but the room is under constant watch by 2 guards at its entrance. Find a way to be alone in the royal display room and remove a slipper quietly and quickly. Leave as fast as you can, because as soon as they notice something is missing, the guards will close the palace doors and you'll be trapped and taken to the dungeon and hung upside down by your toenails. Best of luck. How are we going to get into the palace? Connor asked. Alex began to think of a plan. She was distracted by the long line of carriages driving down the main street of the town towards the palace.
They were elegant and colorful, and each was of its own design. Each carriage had at least 2 horses pulling it, a coachman, a footman riding on the back, and a number of passengers inside. "The ball," Alex said. "We'll just have to sneak into the ball." "Uh-huh," said Connor, contemplating this information. "And, what are we supposed to wear? Look at us. We're not dressed formally enough, and I bet we smell really fresh after walking for 3 days straight with no showers." "I have an idea," Alex said. She opened their bags and took out their blankets. She grabbed a hold of Connor and began wrapping the blanket around him, folding it strategically in certain places so that it would stay up. Alex wrapped herself in the other blanket. "There," Alex said. "We look like we're wearing sensible robes." "We look ridiculous," Connor said. "Do you have any other ideas?" Alex asked him. "Do you think there's a fairy godmother hotline we could call?" Connor asked. The twins walked down to the main street. They followed the traffic of the carriages toward the palace. The closer they came to the palace, the larger it grew and the more real it became. Many of the coachmen glared at the twins with bewilderment and judgmental looks. A few passengers leaned out of their carriage windows to see what the twins were doing. "Take a picture, it lasts longer," Connor shouted at them. "Connor, they don't know what that means," Alex said. They reached the palace just as the sun was setting. As each carriage neared the front steps of the palace's entrance, its footman would run around the carriage and gently help the passengers out. Alex and Connor had never seen such beautiful clothing. All the women wore long ball gowns of various colors, fabrics, and stitching. They wore gloves and diamonds, and some wore bows and feathers in their hair. The men all dressed beautifully too, some in formal armor and some in suits with broad fringed shoulders and square cuffs. All their effort and flair that the guests had put into their appearance made the twins feel very insecure about their impromptu robes. They stuck out like sore thumbs. They were the youngest people there, and they were the only ones not dressed in lace or satin, and they were the only ones carrying bags. They looked exactly like what they were, a couple of kids trying to sneak into a ball. An extensive row of steps led up to the palace's entrance, and Alex and Connor began climbing them as the rest of the attendees. It was a climb. They wondered if they would ever reach the top of it. It was such a climb that they wondered if they would ever reach the top of it. "This world's full of goblins and fairies, but where's an escalator when you need one?" Connor said. "Connor," Alex gasped, "look at this." She pointed to a silver star placed at the center underneath their feet, and it said, "This marks the very place where Cinderella left her glass slipper behind on the night she met Prince Charming." "Can you believe it? That's the very spot Cinderella left her glass slipper?" Alex said, both hands pressed against her heart. "Absolutely," Connor said. "I wouldn't have climbed these steps again if I left my shoe either." The twins caused quite a scene at the entrance. Everyone was absolutely appalled by their clothing. Alex could feel herself blushing from the way everyone was staring at her. She felt like she was back at school. One palace guard in particular couldn't stop staring at them, not in a judgmental way, but as if he had seen them somewhere before and he couldn't remember where. He was standing just a step inside the palace entrance, and he greeted all the guests as they passed them. He wore more badges on his uniform than any of the guards, and had very thin, dark beard. The other palace guard was collecting invitations at the door. The twins began to panic. "What are we going to do?" Alex whispered to her brother. "Let me handle this," Connor said. "I saw this in a movie once. Just go with it." "Invitations, please," the guard said. "Our parents have our invitations and they're already inside," Connor said. "And who are your parents?" the guard asked snootily. "Who are our parents?" Connor yelled, causing a bigger scene than they already had. "You mean you don't know who they are?" All the guards and guests looked at one another. "Connor, calm down," Alex said. What was he thinking? "This man doesn't know who our parents are, Alex," Connor continued. "I'll have you know that our parents invented wishing wells. How dare you not show us any respect?" Alex wanted to slap him. She looked apologetically at the people all around them. They all scowled at the twins in their direction, except for the guard with the thin beard. He was actually smirking at them with gentleness in his eyes. "I'm afraid you two have to leave now," the guard said, collecting the invitations. "Leave? You're making the heirs to the wishing well fortune leave?" Connor exclaimed loud enough for everyone to hear. "Connor, just shut up," Alex whispered directly into his ear. "Is there a problem?" the guard with a thin beard asked as he approached the twins. "Not at all," Alex said, backing up, forcing Connor to move with her. "They just don't have an invitation," the other guard said. "We were just leaving," Alex said. "Sorry for the confusion." "Nonsense," the guard with a thin beard said. "I just saw your parents inside the palace. Why don't I take you to them?" Alex and Connor froze. You did? Connor said, and then quickly remembered that he had to keep up with his own lie. I mean, of course you did. He threw a dirty look at the other guard. Come with me and I'll take you straight to your parents, the guard said with a thin beard. Before they knew it, Alex and Connor were being escorted into the palace. They were completely in over their heads. Did this guard know they were lying? And was he now escorting them directly into the dungeon? Or perhaps Connor's lie was truer than they thought, and they were about to meet a couple that was definitely not their parents. Allow me to introduce myself, the guard said. I'm Sir Lambton, the Queen's Royal Guard. Welcome to the palace. Thank you, sir, Connor said. I'm Connor Wishington, and this is my sister, Alex. Where are you from, Mr. and Miss Wishington? Lambton asked. Upstate Northern Kingdom, Connor said. Even he looked surprised by the words coming out of his mouth. But our parents have a summer home in the south of Sleeping Kingdom and a condo in Fairy Kingdom. Alex's eyes opened so wide, she reminded herself she had to blink. Ah, I see, Lambton said with a curious look. Would you like me to take your bags for you? No, that's quite all right, Alex said. We'll manage. Lambton led the twins down a long hallway behind the other guests. There were many large portraits of past rulers on the wall, and a red carpet ran under their feet. Alex and Connor were all eyes, as they had never been inside a royal palace before. There were so many shiny things to look at. Give me 2 seconds. The live's going to pause for a second, but I have to answer Catherine. She's actually asking if she can come over really quickly, which is hilarious because she wasn't supposed to, but everyone can hear me again. Oh, yeah, she's feeling fine. She is coming over with Tupperware to abscond with some of the food that I made yesterday because she wants to eat it. So she's bringing Tupperware over and she's going to raid my fridge for the food that I cooked for them. Because she did not get her fill yesterday. And she likes my cooking better than she likes her in-laws' cooking. Because Italian. I cook better than they do, let's be real about it. Whatever, it is what it is, right? It's fine. No, that's quite all right, Alex said. We'll manage. Lambton I already read that, okay. Lambton seemed to be enjoying their excitement. He leaned between them and said softly, You're sneaking into the palace, aren't you? Alex desperately looked to Connor, but he was out of lies for the night. Please don't throw us in the dungeon, Alex pleaded. We didn't mean any harm. Connor looked at his sister with a raised eyebrow. Did she mean no harm besides breaking into the palace and stealing a treasured item? Lambton chuckled. I've seen a lot of youngsters try to sneak into a royal ball before, but never have I been so entertained by such an attempt, he said. So you aren't going to throw us in a cell and hang us upside down by our toenails? Connor asked. We stopped doing that ages ago, Lambton said. On the contrary, it would be my honor to show you around. Really? Connor said. That would be lovely, Alex said, clasping her hands together. Thank you so much. At the end of the hall, Lambton led the twins through a pair of golden doors and into the ballroom. At first sight, it was overwhelming. There were so many things to look at. It was impossible to focus on any one thing long enough to comprehend what it was. There was so much movement and color. The biggest chandelier that they had ever seen, with thousands of candles hung from the ceiling above an enormous dance floor. Hundreds of formally dressed men and women filled the space. Some mingled on the sides while others danced to the music played by a small orchestra in the corner. I know, this book is hilarious. He's got quips, man. Everything from the archways to the accents on the walls was golden. A grand staircase descended in the back of the room, just behind 2 empty thrones. Connor knew it would only be a few seconds before Alex started crying. It's so beautiful, Alex said with teary eyes. Is this where they had the ball where Cinderella and the prince met? Indeed, Lambton said. I'll never forget it. I was just a simple guard back then. The prince was meeting all the young women in the kingdom in high hopes of finding a bride. Cinderella was the last to arrive that night. She entered the room just as we are now, and everyone stopped to look at her. How did she look? Alex asked. Magical, Lambton said with a smile lost in his own memory. She wore a long violet dress that sparkled as she walked. I remember hearing the soft taps of her glass slippers as she walked past. As soon as the prince saw her, it was love at first sight. The whole palace could feel it. Suddenly, a man blew a trumpet at the foot of the grand staircase. Ladies and gentlemen, the man with the trumpet announced, it is with great honor that I welcome you to a royal ball this evening. Now please give a warm welcome to their royal majesties, King Charming and Queen Cinderella. The guests cheered and burst into applause. The royal couple entered the ballroom, slowly making their way down the grand staircase. Alex grabbed onto Connor's arm. "Connor," Alex gasped, "it's Cinderella! It's Cinderella!" Although the twins had only ever seen illustrations of her, Cinderella was more beautiful than they had ever expected. Her hair was auburn and styled up behind a crystal tiara. She wore white gloves, and a long turquoise gown flowed down around her, accentuating her pregnant belly. Despite all the gold and glorious chandeliers, her eyes and smile were the brightest thing in the room. King Charming was the definition of dashing. He was every bit as handsome as any description ever written about him. He had a mesmerizing smile and thick, wavy hair under a large golden crown. He could easily have been a movie star back in the twins' world. The king and queen took their seats on the throne, and the guard blew the trumpet with the opening notes of another announcement. "Let the ball begin!" the guard with the trumpet proclaimed, and was greeted with another round of excited applause. The majority of the guests rushed to the dance floor. The orchestra began playing a fast-paced symphony. All the guests paired up and began waltzing around the room, each looking lovingly into their partner's eyes the entire time. The king and queen remained seated. You could tell Cinderella wanted to join the dance, but her pregnancy was preventing her from doing so. King Charming only had eyes for his wife, and he was enjoying watching her watch the dance more than the actual dance itself. At one point, each of the dancing men collected a shoe from their partners, circled them with it before placing it back on their feet. A Cinderellian tribute, no doubt. Time flew by as the twins watched the ball. The unborn child that Cinderella was carrying must have been kicking from all the excitement. Cinderella appeared to have some discomfort and had been rubbing her belly and shifted in her seat for some time. She eventually whispered something to King Charming's ear. King Charming took his wife's hand and carefully helped her back up the grand staircase. The guard blew his trumpet again. "The queen is tired and wishes to rest, but she and the king welcome you to continue the celebration without their presence." The crowd happily obliged and continued their fun. "Would you like a tour of the palace?" Lambton asked the twins. "More than anything," Alex said. Lambton escorted the twins out of the ballroom and down a hall similar to the one they had first entered the palace through. It, too, was home to several portraits of past rulers and long red carpet. "This palace was built over 500 years ago," Lambton told them as he walked. "It's been home to the Charming dynasty since then. This is a portrait of King Chester Charming, Cinderella's late father-in-law." He referred to the large painting of an old bearded man with a crown. He looked exactly like his son, but much older. "How many Charmings have there been?" Connor asked. We've lost count," Lambton said. "There are 3 currently. Chester had 4 sons: Chance Charming, Chase Charming, Chandler Charming, and Charlie Charming." Each of the Charming brothers had his own portrait on the wall. "King Chance Charming is the oldest and is married to Queen Cinderella," Lambton said, gesturing to the portrait of the man they had just seen in the ballroom. "King Chance Charming is the second oldest and is married. King Chase Charming is the second oldest and is married to Queen Sleeping Beauty," Lambton continued. Chase looked exactly like his brother, except he was a bit taller and wore a goatee. "King Chandler Charming is the 3rd oldest, and he's married to Queen Snow White," Lambton said. Chandler looked like his brothers, but had the longest hair of all of them. The last portrait in the hallway caught the twins' eyes the most. It was hung slightly away from the rest and depicted the youngest of the Charming brothers. He was young and had a big smile. A single candle was lit beside the portrait, and it appeared to be a memorial of sorts. "Who's that?" Connor asked Lambton. Lambton's happy expression faded away. "That's Prince Charlie, the 4th of King Chester's sons. He's the long-lost Charming prince," Lambton said. "He vanished one night many years ago. No one ever saw him again." "That's horrible," Alex said. "His brothers led a massive search party throughout all the kingdoms, but they never found a trace of him," Lambton said sadly. Do you think... No, do you think that, oh, I didn't think it could be Froggy. It could be Froggy, or maybe it's his journal, and he's the one who disappeared into another land for his lady love. Maybe. Don't tell us, Liz. I know you already know because you finished the book. While on the road, Prince Chandler came across Snow White in her glass coffin, and Prince Chase discovered Sleeping Beauty asleep in her castle, and they both broke the spells on them, and they were married. That's incredible, Alex said. So if Prince Charlie never went missing, Sleeping Beauty and Snow White would still be unconscious. That may be, Lambton said, and since his brothers took all the eligible princesses, Prince Chance had to put on the ball where he met Cinderella. Everything happens for a reason, I suppose. Alex and Connor couldn't stop staring at the portrait of Prince Charlie. There was a sad energy in this part of the hallway, and the twins were especially sensitive to it. The long-lost prince couldn't have been much older than them when he'd gone missing. Lambton clearly appreciated the twins' interest. Now follow me. I have something very special that I want to show you, Lambton said. Yeah, it's more likely that it's Froggy than the other guy than if he was young when he disappeared. Because if he was a kid, I don't know. Lambton led the twins down another hallway that led into a deeper part of the palace. This part of the palace was completely vacant, and it made the twins more and more nervous as they walked. They had no idea where Lambton was taking them, and they were too timid to ask. They rounded a corner towards another long hall with a pair of black double doors where 2 guards were on either side of the door and a large stone arch above them with a sign that read, Queen Cinderella's Royal Room of Display. I think Charlie's their dad. He left for the real world to be with their mom. But they said he left when he was no older than them, so that doesn't really make any sense the more that I think about it, because that would mean that he was, 13? I think it might be Froggy. I think you were right the first time. It makes more sense for it to be Froggy. I don't know. I think he was too young. I don't know. You could be right. You could be right, Shelley. You could be right. I could be totally off base. We don't know. We won't know for a little bit, I assume. Alex and Connor looked at each other with light in their eyes. They had made it. Hello, sir, one of the guards said to Lambton. Good evening, Lambton said. He pushed open the doors and the twins followed him inside. They set their bags down and looked around the room. The display room was a wide chamber with white pillars and a sky blue tiled floor. The ceiling was domed and covered in golden stars. The room was illuminated by moonlight coming from a large window in the back and then reflecting throughout by a series of hanging mirrors. Several special objects were on display and placed on top of short pillars surrounded by thick glass cases. Brooms, buckets, and old raggedy dresses were all put on show. A family of mice lived in a glass case in a miniature replica of the palace. In the very center of the room were Cinderella's glass slippers. They were beautiful and petite and made from pure crystal glass and decorated with diamonds. The twins could feel their hearts sink to the pits of their stomach as soon as they saw them. They were so close. Those are beautiful, Alex said. The slippers put her in a trance. I'm quite partial to them myself, said a soft voice that didn't belong... I'm quite partial to them myself, said a soft voice that didn't belong to Alex, Connor, or Lambton. Sitting on the windowsill in the back of the room was Cinderella herself. They'd been so astonished by the display room, they hadn't noticed her. Your Majesty, Lambton said, please forgive me. I didn't see you there. I was just giving some guests a tour of the palace. It's quite all right, Sir Lambton, Cinderella said, and walked across the chamber to greet them. I like to come in here occasionally after long days to clear my head. Who might these two be? Alex and Connor couldn't speak. They were completely starstruck. This is Alex and Connor, Lambton told her. Pleasure to meet you, Cinderella said and held out her hand. We're big fans, Connor said and shook her hand literally too hard. Alex couldn't move. You're like my hero, Alex said to her, and that's all she could manage to say. Thank you, sweetheart, Alex said. Welcome to my little room of memories. It's remarkable, Alex squeaked. Would you like me to show you around? Cinderella asked. Alex still couldn't move her limbs, but was able to nod. Cinderella began a small tour and then looked around the room at each of the items on display. These are the brooms and the buckets that I used to use to clean my stepmother's house every day, Cinderella said. They were my first dancing partners. I remember whenever I was home alone, I used to dance with them around the house and pretend I was at a big royal dance. Although I must say, they weren't the best at conversation. Cinderella and Lambton laughed. Alex and Connor were still in shock that they were in her presence. They were standing next to Cinderella, and she had a sense of humor. Over here are my raggedy old clothes that my fairy godmother turned into my beautiful ball gown, Cinderella continued. They're not much to look at now, but when my fairy godmother visits us, they turn back into a beautiful ball gown that she created for me. That's really cool, Connor said. These are my mice, Cinderella said and showed the twins the miniature palace full of mice. She opened the latch and took a mouse out of the case. She gently petted it, and it peacefully nestled into her hand. Are these the mice that were transformed into horses and coachmen for your carriage? Alex said finally. I learned yesterday that I was supposed to be a movie, but COVID ended up canceling it. That's heartbreaking. I really wished that it would have been a movie because this would have been a great one. The original mice passed away, but these are their children and their children's children, Cinderella said. I look after them as a thank you. They have a horrible reputation, but mice are actually very gentle creatures. You just have to give them a chance. Cinderella put the mouse back with the others and walked to the center of the room. And these, I believe, need no explanation, she said and brought the twins to the glass slippers. She removed the glass case entirely and took one of the slippers in her hand. Those couldn't have been comfortable, Connor said. They were surprisingly easy to move about in, Cinderella said. Did your feet get sweaty? Connor went on. That couldn't have really... Alex elbowed him in the ribs. Cinderella snickered. Would you like to hold one? Cinderella asked them. Alex nodded harder than she had ever nodded before. Cinderella gently lifted one from the pillar and handed it to her. A magical feeling went through Alex. She was holding a piece of fairy tale history. Perhaps the most famous object in all of fantasy time was in her hands. She couldn't help but get a bit emotional. Connor, on the other hand, kept thinking of ways to steal the slipper. Alex looked up at her brother and knew what he was thinking by the intensity in his eyes. For a moment they shared the same thought. Was it possible to just take off with it? Connor was actually thinking that if it was possible to outrun Lambton and the other two guards to the door. What was it like? Alex asked Cinderella. What was it like going from being a servant to being a queen? What was it like to be saved from a horrible situation? Your life is literally, well, a Cinderella story. A sadness came to Cinderella's face. I never thought my life would change so drastically, so I always made the most of what I had, Cinderella said. I always laugh at the term Cinderella story because if you ask me, it doesn't matter what life you're living. Life never has a solution. No matter how hard the struggles are that you leave behind, new struggles always take their place. People forget that I wasn't liked very much by the people of the charming kingdom when I first came to live at the palace, Cinderella said. Not too many people were thrilled with the idea of a servant girl becoming their queen. Many people called me the Pumpkin Princess or the Mouse Monarch when they first discovered the details of how I came to the ball that night. I had to earn the kingdom's respect, and it wasn't easy. Being a queen has to have some perks, though, right? Connor asked. No more scrubbing floors or dancing with cleaning supplies or talking to mice. Meeting the man of my dreams and starting a family is the best thing that will ever happen to me, Cinderella said with a smile and rubbed her belly, and that's what makes me the happiest and luckiest woman in the world. However, living in a public life is a difficult thing to do, and even now I still find it a bit overwhelming. No matter what you do, you can never please everyone, and that was the hardest lesson to learn. In fact, I'm still learning it. This was such a revelation to Alex. Suddenly, the fairy tale world seemed even more real than it had ever before. She never thought that she could respect Cinderella more than she already did, but she never thought about the story from her point of view. Alex set the slipper back beside the other one. At first, Connor shot her a look. What are you doing? We have to steal that. But they both knew they couldn't take it, at least not tonight, not after the kindness that they had been shown. After all the magical things that had happened in my life, this is my most prized possession, Cinderella said, resting her hand on her pregnant stomach. And she's going to be here any day now. How do you know it's a girl? Alex asked. Mother's intuition, Cinderella said. She never sits still when she hears music, so she must have my taste and her father's energy. One of the guards from the hallway burst into the display room. Your Majesty, Sir Lambton, your presence has been requested in the ballroom, the guard said very seriously. Something was wrong. What's the matter? Sir Lambton asked. Soldiers from the Northern Kingdom. They've come with a message from the king and queen. Lambton handed the twins their bags before they knew it was the twins. Before they knew it, the twins were following him. What's going on? I think I missed something. Okay. Lambton handed the twins their bag. Before they knew it, the twins were following him. Cinderella and the other guards were going out of the display room, down the hallway towards the ballroom. Now how are we going to get a hold of one of the glass slippers? Connor asked, whispering to Alex. We'll have to collect the other items first and then come back here for it, Alex said. It should be easier to explain why we need it if we have the other items. We've already established a trusting relationship with them. I knew I should have grabbed it when I had the chance, Connor said. They re-entered the ballroom and all the guests were still and the orchestra was dead silent. Cinderella was reunited with her husband at the thrones. Dozens of the same soldiers dressed in silver armor whom Alex and Connor had seen on their first day in the Land of Stories were now spread throughout the ballroom. Forgive the intrusion, Your Majesty. My name is Sir Grant, and I'm the head of Snow White's Royal Guard. We have the news regarding the evil queen, the leader of the soldiers said. What is it? King Charming said. Everyone in the room could tell that this was not good news by his tone. You could cut the tension and worry in the air with a knife. Last night, the magic mirror that belonged to the evil queen was stolen from her former chambers, Sir Grant said. The evil queen is very much still at large, and then she is informed that she has former mirrors that make her a much greater threat to all of us. We are asking, nay pleading, if anyone in the Charming Kingdom knows anything about the whereabouts of the evil queen and where she's hiding, that they please let us know immediately. Snow White's soldiers were filed out of the ballroom. King Charming and Cinderella embraced one another, worried both for themselves and what the news meant for their kingdom. It was so lovely to meet you, children, but I must go now, Lambton said to them. He patted their shoulders and then headed out after the soldiers. Many of the guests began leaving as well. Alex and Connor followed them out, down the entrance steps and away from the palace. This whole evil queen situation is starting to get concerning to me, Alex said. I know, but it's really not our problem, Connor said. We'll be gone long before anything else happens. I hope so, Alex said. Well, where are we off to now? Connor asked. The Little Red Riding Hood Kingdom is north of here, Alex said. I guess that's the best direction to head, and I hope we have better luck getting a hold of Red Riding Hood's basket. We better not chicken out this time, Connor said. Gosh, we were so close. He clenched his fist. But he just couldn't have taken it. Not without permission, Alex said. It wouldn't have felt right. I'm so tired of being a good person, Connor said. Despite having failed to collect a glass slipper and the abrupt end to their evening, the twins had a pretty fantastic night. It wasn't every day that they got to have such an intimate conversation with one of the most famous women in history. Luckily, the twins found a night driver transporting a cart full of pears to a village in the northern part of the Charming Kingdom. They convinced him to let them ride in the back of his carriage in exchange for a few gold coins. It would only be a few miles' walk to the Red Riding Hood Kingdom from there. Connor fell asleep as soon as he climbed aboard. Alex couldn't sleep, so she decided to read through the journals again. She reached into her bag and was astounded to find what was inside. Connor! Alex gasped. Connor jumped back to consciousness. What is it? He asked. He looked over and saw something very shiny in his sister's hands. His eyes were still a little blurry from sleeping, and he had let them adjust before realizing what it was. A glass slipper, Connor exclaimed. Alex gestured for him to keep quiet so the driver wouldn't hear them. How in the world did we get one? Did you steal it? I thought it was you. Alex's mouth was so wide that it could have fit a dozen pears inside. No, it wasn't me, I swear. Do you think Lambton or Cinderella put it in your bag? Connor asked. Do you think one of them knew that we needed it? I have no idea, Alex asked. She couldn't believe what she was actually holding onto, one of Cinderella's glass slippers. They were both completely dumbfounded. Looks like our trip to the Charming Kingdom wasn't such a waste after all, Connor said. Dang. Wow. Wow. Well, there it is. Tomorrow we'll read chapter 10. We are about at page 200, and there are 438 pages, so we've still got, a way to go. Where do you get your pack keys from? This must be a joke that I don't understand. So I'm just gonna let it go because I don't understand that. All right, so I will see you all later, and I will probably make Slime on Live later, maybe. We'll see. All right, bye guys.